Have you ever noticed how the world never stops talking? Notifications ping, voices clamor, engines roar, and even in moments of supposed quiet, your mind continues its relentless chatter. We've become so accustomed to noise that silence feels almost threatening, a void to be filled rather than a space to be honored. Yet in the ancient traditions of the Shaolin Temple, silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It is the fertile soil where wisdom takes root, where your fragile true self emerges from beneath layers of societal conditioning. What might you discover if you dared to unplug from the cacophony of modern existence for 30 days? What version of yourself awaits in that luminous quiet? Before we journey deeper, I would like to thank you for being here. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing to join our community of fellow travelers on the path to self-mastery. Clarity means you see more clear. When you see more clear, interrelations become more apparent. When you see more clear, there is no need to believe anyone or believe anything. Picture yourself as a mountain climber. Every day, you ascend toward a peak shrouded in fog. This peak represents clarity, true understanding of yourself and your place in this world. But as you climb, the weight of constant noise drags at your feet. Your smartphone buzzes with notifications. Your colleagues demand immediate responses. Your family requires attention. Even in bed, your mind races through tomorrow's obligations. This is not merely distraction, it is cognitive suffocation. I recently encountered a man, let's call him Michael, who embodied this modern condition. As the CEO of a tech startup, his day consisted of back-to-back meetings, hundreds of emails, and constant decision-making. "I'm successful by every external measure," he told me, "but I feel hollow inside. I don't even know who I am beneath all these roles I play." In desperation, Michael took the radical step of disconnecting completely. He traveled to a remote monastery in the mountains where he committed to 30 days of complete silence. The first week was excruciating. Without external stimulation, Michael's mind rebelled. It generated endless distractions. Old arguments replayed, imaginary conversations unfolded, business problems demanded solutions. His thoughts raced so frantically that he considered leaving. But gradually, like a turbulent lake settling after a storm, his mind began to still. By day 12, he could sit for hours watching his breath, observing thoughts arise and dissolve without attachment. It was during the third week that the true transformation began. Without the constant pull of external opinions, Michael started to distinguish between thoughts that were authentically his and those merely absorbed from others. He realized how many of his personal values were actually societal expectations he had internalized. His ambitious business goals, his relationship patterns, even his daily habits. How many had he chosen consciously, and how many had he inherited unconsciously? This mental clarity represents the first gift of extended silence. In the absence of input, your mind naturally organizes itself. The unnecessary falls away, the essential reveals itself. You begin to see not just with your eyes, but with your full awareness. But mental clarity is merely the first step of this journey. As your mind quiets, you begin to notice the subtle patterns of your thinking, the habitual reactions, the emotional tendencies, the unconscious biases. These patterns, what Buddhists call samskaras, create grooves in your consciousness that determine how you perceive and respond to life. In silence, these patterns become visible, and what is visible can be transformed. Have you ever wondered why you react so strongly to certain triggers? Why particular situations cause you disproportionate stress? Why you repeatedly find yourself in the same relationship dynamics despite promising yourself, never again? These patterns remain invisible in the noise of daily life, but in silence, they cannot hide. The clarity that emerges from extended silence isn't merely intellectual, it's visceral. It resonates through your entire being. You don't just understand yourself better, you feel yourself more completely. The boundaries between mind, body, and spirit blur. You begin to experience yourself not as separate compartments, but as an integrated whole. And yet, This clarity often arrives with discomfort. As Michael discovered in his third week of silence, seeing clearly means acknowledging truths you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It means confronting the ways you've betrayed your deepest values for external validation. It means recognizing how often fear, not love, has guided your choices. This clarity is both illuminating and humbling. It strips away the self-deception that has kept you comfortable but stagnant. As one Zen master puts it, first there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, finally there is a mountain again. Initially you see reality through the distortion of ego. Then through practice the distortion dissolves. Finally you see reality directly, as it truly is. Consider your own life. How many decisions have you made while distracted? How often have you responded to situations automatically rather than intentionally? What might become possible if you could see with perfect clarity? Not just occasionally, not just during moments of inspiration, but consistently as your natural state of being. This is not about escaping the world, it's about engaging with it more authentically. True clarity doesn't pull you away from life, it plunges you more deeply into it. You don't withdraw from responsibility, you respond to it with greater wisdom. 30 days of silence offers the space for this transformation. It is not easy, nothing of value ever is, but within that sacred container of quiet, the mountain of clarity rises before you, no longer shrouded in fog, but radiating with unmistakable presence. Will you climb it? There are 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances are describing different states of the mind. In those states of the mind, it becomes very hard to see clearly and therefore engage in the right decisions. As you venture deeper into silence, you encounter not just clarity, but also obstacles. These are not external barriers, but internal resistances, what the Shaolin tradition calls the 5 hindrances. Understanding these hindrances is crucial, for they are not merely obstacles to your 30-day silence practice. They are the very patterns that have limited your entire life. The first hindrance is sensual desire. In the context of a silence retreat, this manifests as craving for stimulation. Your mind, accustomed to constant entertainment, rebels against emptiness. It demands the dopamine hit of a notification, the distraction of a conversation, the comfort of background noise. One participant in a silence retreat described it vividly. By day 3, I would have traded my most valuable possession just to check my email. It wasn't about the messages themselves, it was about the hit of stimulation. This craving extends beyond digital distractions. You might find yourself fixating on food, fantasizing about future pleasures, or revisiting past enjoyments. Your mind, like a child denied candy, tantrums for what it wants. But in silence, you learn to observe these cravings without acting on them. You discover the profound difference between wanting and needing. The second hindrance is ill will or aversion. This manifests as rejection of your present experience. The discomfort of silence becomes something to resist. Your back aches from meditation, and you resent the pain. Memories of conflict arise, and you fuel them with fresh anger. Boredom sets in, and you blame the practice itself. A finance executive named Sarah encountered this hindrance powerfully during her silence retreat. I became irrationally angry at everything, she recalled. The sound of others breathing irritated me. The vegetarian meals seemed like personal affronts. I even felt hatred toward the meditation cushion. This aversion wasn't really about the external circumstances, but about Sarah's resistance to her own discomfort. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor, a heaviness of body and dullness of mind. In silence, without the artificial stimulation of caffeine, social interaction, or digital engagement, you confront your true energy levels. Many discover a profound fatigue lurking beneath their busyness. Your body, finally given permission to rest, might respond by wanting to do nothing but sleep. This torpor can feel like depression. The world loses its vibrancy. Motivation evaporates. Simple tasks require immense effort. This state reveals how much of your apparent energy comes not from genuine vitality, but from stress hormones and external pressure. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry. Your mind, denied its usual distractions, becomes like a caged animal pacing in circles. You plan future conversations, rehearse explanations, solve imaginary problems. Your body fidgets. Your attention jumps from sensation to sensation, thought to thought. This restlessness reveals how dependent you've become on constant motion to avoid facing what lies beneath. An artist who undertook a month of silence described this hindrance. My mind became a cinema playing worst-case scenarios on repeat. What if my career collapsed while I was away? What if my partner left me? What if this silence was damaging rather than healing? The anxieties were so vivid they felt physical. The fifth hindrance is skeptical doubt. As your practice deepens, you begin questioning everything. Is this worthwhile? Am I doing it correctly? Would another approach be better? This doubt undermines your commitment. It creates a back door through which your resolve escapes. A teacher I know calls this the spiritual shopper mindset, constantly browsing techniques without committing to any. This doubt isn't healthy skepticism, but a form of resistance, a way to avoid the vulnerability of full engagement. Recognizing these hindrances is only the first step. Next comes addressing them skillfully. For this, I recommend the RAIN method. Recognize, accept, investigate, non-identify. First, recognize which hindrance is present. Name it clearly. This is desire, or this is doubt. Bringing awareness to the pattern immediately diminishes its power. Second, accept its presence without judgment. Fighting the hindrance only strengthens it. Instead, acknowledge this restlessness is here right now, and that's okay. Third, investigate the hindrance with curiosity. How does it feel in your body? What thoughts accompany it? What triggered its appearance? This investigation transforms the hindrance from an obstacle into a teacher. Finally, practice non-identification. Remind yourself, I am not this desire, I am not this doubt. These are temporary states passing through my awareness, not my fundamental identity. Through extended silence, these hindrances don't just appear occasionally, they become the main characters in your inner landscape. You see how desire pulls you towards certain experiences, and how aversion pushes you away from others. You notice how torpor arises when you face uncomfortable truths, and how restlessness prevents deeper insight. You recognize how doubt keeps you perpetually searching rather than finding. This recognition is profoundly liberating. The hindrances don't disappear. They may always be part of human experience, but their power over you diminishes. You no longer contract around desire or expand against aversion. You create space around torpor rather than sinking into it. You hold restlessness gently rather than being swept away by it. You acknowledge doubt without being paralyzed by it. What patterns have dominated your life? Which of these hindrances feels most familiar? How might your experience transform if you could recognize these patterns as they arise rather than hours, days, or years afterward? These are not merely philosophical questions, but practical inquiries with profound implications for how you live. Focusing means you know what type of energy is going to come in. Those two I combine and then I just do it. In our modern world, focus has become fragmented. Studies show the average person checks their phone 96 times daily, once every 10 minutes. Each interruption requires 23 minutes to regain full concentration. The mathematics is sobering. We exist in a perpetual state of partial attention. Extended silence recalibrates this fragmented awareness. Without external distractions, your attention naturally consolidates. The scattered rays of your consciousness converge into a single powerful beam. This is not the tense, caffeine-fueled focus of deadline pressure, but the relaxed, sustained attention of complete presence. Consider the practice of breaking stones in Shaolin Kung Fu. When I demonstrate this technique, observers often assume it requires extraordinary physical strength. In reality, it demands extraordinary mental focus. Every aspect of the body, the structure of the bone, the density of the muscle, the alignment of the joints, must work in perfect harmony. This harmony emerges not from physical force, but from complete mental presence. A business consultant named David experienced this transformation during his month of silence. Previously, his workdays consisted of multitasking, answering emails, during meetings, planning presentations while on conference calls, thinking about work during family dinners. His attention was everywhere and nowhere. During his silent retreat, David initially struggled with the simplest meditation instructions. Follow your breath. His mind wandered constantly, but by the second week, something shifted. He could maintain awareness of his breath for several minutes without distraction. By the third week, he entered states of concentration where time seemed to dissolve. Returning to work, David implemented a radical change. Instead of multitasking, he adopted monotasking, giving complete attention to one activity at a time. He scheduled specific blocks for emails rather than checking them continuously. During meetings, his devices remained off. While working on reports, he disabled notifications. The results were remarkable. Tasks that previously required hours were completed in minutes. His creativity flourished. Colleagues commented on his heightened presence. Most significantly, David reported a new sense of ease. "I'm doing more but feeling less busy," he explained. "The work hasn't changed, but my relationship to it has transformed completely." This shift reflects a fundamental Shaolin principle. True mastery comes not from doing more, but from dividing less. When your energy scatters in multiple directions, each receives only a fraction of your potential. When your energy flows in a single direction, its power multiplies exponentially. The focus cultivated through silence transfers to every domain of life. In conversation, you listen completely rather than planning your response. In relationships, you give your full presence rather than partial attention. In decision-making, you evaluate options clearly rather than reactively. This quality of attention creates a positive ripple effect. When you focus completely on cooking, the meal becomes more nourishing. When you focus completely on exercise, the movement becomes more effective. When you focus completely on rest, the relaxation becomes more rejuvenating. Every aspect of life intensifies through undivided attention. Modern neuroscience confirms what Shaolin masters have known for centuries. The brain physically changes through focused practice. Neural pathways strengthen, new connections form. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, develops greater density. These changes persist beyond the silence retreat, creating lasting improvements in concentration, decision-making, and emotional regulation. But focus alone isn't sufficient. Quality matters as much as quantity. Concentration can become rigid, a tense gripping rather than a gentle holding. The Shaolin approach balances intensity with relaxation, effort with ease. Your attention becomes simultaneously powerful and fluid, like water that can both carve canyons and conform to any container. This balanced focus emerges naturally in extended silence. Without external pressures, no deadlines, no expectations, no competition, you discover your natural rhythm of engagement. You learn to recognize the subtle difference between healthy effort and unhealthy strain. You develop what Zen masters call effortless effort, full engagement without tension. The paradox of this focused state is that it feels simultaneously more alert and more relaxed than ordinary consciousness. Your senses sharpen. Colors appear more vivid. Sounds register with greater clarity. Yet your body softens. Your breath deepens. Your nervous system settles. This seemingly contradictory state, heightened awareness with profound calm, represents optimal human functioning. Imagine maintaining this quality of presence not just during meditation, but throughout your day. How would your work transform if you brought complete attention to each task? How would your relationships deepen if you listened with your whole being? How would your self-understanding evolve if you observed your thoughts with unwavering awareness? These questions point to a revolutionary possibility that most of our limitations stem not from lack of ability, but from lack of presence. We don't need to become something other than what we are. We need to be fully what we already are. Extended silence creates the container for this fullness to emerge. You can only care for someone or for something if you know how care feels. You can only love someone if you know how love feels. If you don't have love inside of you, how can you give it? A journey through extended silence inevitably leads to a profound encounter, not just with yourself but with your shared humanity. As the boundaries of your individual identity soften, a natural compassion emerges. This compassion flows in two directions, inward toward yourself and outward toward others. Self-compassion often arises unexpectedly during silence retreats. As your awareness deepens, you witness the full extent of your internal struggles. The harsh self-criticism, the unrealistic expectations, the lingering shame from past mistakes. Initially, this witnessing can feel brutal. Many retreat participants report days of silent tears as they confront the ways they've abandoned themselves. A surgeon named James experienced this awakening powerfully. "I realized I'd spent my entire life treating myself like a machine," he shared. "If I made a mistake in surgery, I would mentally flog myself for days. If my body needed rest, I would override it with willpower. I never spoke to anyone the way I routinely spoke to myself." In the compassionate space of silence, James recognized this self-cruelty for what it was, not motivation but sabotage. He began practicing self-forgiveness, acknowledging his humanity, embracing his imperfections. This wasn't self-indulgence but self-respect, the foundation for genuine growth. This self-compassion naturally extends outward. When you intimately know your own suffering, you recognize it in others. Their defensive behaviors, reactive patterns, and self-destructive tendencies appear not as personal flaws, but as universal human struggles. The irritation you once felt toward others transforms into understanding. A school teacher who completed a 30-day silence retreat described this transformation. "Before the retreat, certain students triggered intense frustration in me. Their behavior felt like a personal attack. During the silence, I realized my reaction had nothing to do with them and everything to do with my unprocessed emotions. Now, when a student acts out, I see their pain rather than my inconvenience." This compassionate vision doesn't mean you become passive or permissive. In fact, true compassion often requires firm boundaries and clear expectations. But these boundaries stem from love rather than fear, from care rather than control. Then your interactions become less reactive and more responsive, less about protecting yourself and more about serving what each situation genuinely needs. As silence deepens, compassion expands beyond individuals to encompass all life. You begin experiencing what the Shaolin tradition calls oneness, the direct recognition that separation is an illusion. Your well-being and the well-being of others become inseparable. This isn't an intellectual concept but a felt reality, as tangible as the ground beneath your feet. A business executive named Sophia encountered this oneness during her silence retreat. "There was a moment during meditation when the boundary between me and not me simply dissolved," she recalled. "I could feel the pain of the world as my own pain, the joy of the world as my own joy. It wasn't overwhelming but clarifying, like finally seeing with both eyes after a lifetime of monocular vision." Returning to her corporate role, Sophia implemented radical changes. Environmental sustainability became central to her company's mission. Employee well-being took precedence over quarterly profits. Community impact factored into every business decision. These weren't separate initiatives, but expressions of a unified understanding that genuine success must benefit the whole, not just the part. This oneness represents the true meaning of spirituality, not ethereal beliefs, but embodied connection. It emerges not through theological argument, but through direct experience. When the noise of conceptual thinking subsides, the underlying unity of existence reveals itself. This revelation transforms not just how you think, but how you live. Many silence retreat participants report that their most profound experiences occur not during formal meditation, but during ordinary activities, washing dishes, walking paths, tending gardens. In these simple moments, when the mind relaxes its grip on separation, oneness shines through. You don't achieve this state through effort. You simply stop interfering with what's already true. This perspective challenges the competitive individualism that dominates modern culture. Success ceases to be about outperforming others and becomes about uplifting the whole. Your compass shifts from personal advantage to collective flourishing. This isn't sacrificing yourself for others, but recognizing that true fulfillment emerges only through mutual well-being. Paradoxically, this widening of concern enhances, rather than diminishes, your individual experience. Joy intensifies, gratitude multiplies, purpose clarifies. The Shaolin masters describe this as expanding your identity, not losing yourself, but including more in your sense of self. Your happiness becomes less dependent on personal circumstances and more connected to the boundless well-being of all life. This compassionate awareness naturally expresses itself through action. After silence retreats, many participants fundamentally reorient their lives towards service. A financial analyst becomes a humanitarian aid worker. A marketing executive launches a non-profit. A retired attorney offers pro bono services to environmental causes. These aren't sacrificial choices, but authentic alignments with a deeper understanding of fulfillment. Even without dramatic external changes, this compassionate vision transforms ordinary interactions. You listen more attentively. You speak more truthfully. You offer help more readily. You receive support more graciously. These small shifts create ripple effects, gradually transforming your relationships, communities, and potentially our collective culture. What might emerge if you experienced yourself not as separate, but as connected? How would your priorities shift? What would you no longer tolerate? What would you more actively cultivate? Extended silence offers the space to explore these questions, not abstractly but experientially, through the direct recognition of our fundamental oneness. Own your life. If I look right now out in the world and also in the past, what I witness is simply like this. There is the tendency that a lot of things are being outsourced to everybody else, to institutions, to other people, which lie outside of you. You stand now at a threshold. Before you lies the possibility of 30 days of silence, not as an escape from life, but as a deeper immersion into it. This practice offers no guarantees. It provides no step-by-step formula for happiness. Instead, it creates a container for your unique journey of self-discovery. This journey begins with a simple decision: to stop outsourcing your well-being to external conditions, to recognize that no achievement, relationship, or possession can provide the peace that emerges from within, to acknowledge that the answers you seek have always resided inside you, beneath the noise of a distracted life. The path of silence isn't easy. You will face your unprocessed emotions, your limiting beliefs, your habitual patterns. You will encounter the 5 hindrances: desire pulling you toward distraction, aversion pushing you away from discomfort, torpor lulling you into unconsciousness, restlessness scattering your attention, doubt undermining your commitment. But through the RAIN method, recognize, accept, investigate, non-identify, these hindrances transform from obstacles into teachers. Each moment of resistance becomes an opportunity for deeper understanding. Each struggle reveals another layer of conditioning to release. As clarity emerges, your focus naturally consolidates. The fragmented attention that has characterized your life gives way to unified awareness. This isn't just about being more productive. It's about being more alive. It's about bringing your full presence to each moment rather than living perpetually divided between what is and what could be. From this concentrated awareness, compassion naturally flows. You witness your own suffering with kindness rather than judgment. You recognize others' struggles as variations of your own. The illusory boundaries between self and other begin to dissolve, revealing the fundamental oneness that has always existed beneath the surface of apparent separation. This compassionate vision doesn't remove you from the world, but engages you with it more authentically. Your actions become less reactive and more responsive, less driven by fear and more guided by love. You discover what the Shaolin masters call effortless effort, full engagement without tension, complete commitment without attachment. As you consider this invitation to 30 days of silence, practical questions may arise. Where would you practice? How would you manage responsibilities? What support might you need? These logistics matter, but they're secondary to the essential question. Are you willing to meet yourself fully without distraction? If a formal 30-day retreat seems impossible, consider alternatives. Perhaps you could practice silence from sunset to sunrise for a month, or designate one room in your home as a silent space, or commit to 3 hours of silence daily. The specific form matters less than the underlying intention, to create space for your authentic self to emerge. Whatever form your practice takes, remember that silence isn't about achieving special states, but about revealing what's already present. It's not about becoming something other than what you are, but about being fully what you already are. The transformation comes not from adding something new, but from removing what's extraneous. The world will not make this easy. Everywhere forces pull toward distraction, toward consumption, toward noise. Swimming against this current requires courage and commitment. It means recognizing how often busyness serves not as necessity, but as avoidance. A way to escape the confrontation with yourself that silence inevitably brings. Yet this confrontation, however challenging, holds the key to authentic living. In the words of a Shaolin saying, first, face yourself, then forget yourself, finally, be yourself. Extended silence creates the container for this journey from self-consciousness through self-forgetfulness to self-realization. I invite you now to consider, what truth might await you in the silence? What wisdom has been trying to reach you through the noise? What version of yourself, more authentic, more compassionate, more alive, has been waiting patiently for your attention? The journey of 30 days of silence begins with a single choice to turn within. This choice, repeated daily, creates the possibility for profound transformation. Not because silence itself has magical properties, but because it reveals the magic that has always existed within you, beneath the surface of distraction. Will you accept this invitation? Will you dare to discover who you are beyond the roles you play, the masks you wear, the noise you generate? Will you create the space for your authentic self to emerge? The choice, as always, belongs to you alone. See you next time. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and your spirit evolving.